Okay, we are live. Hello, everyone. Good evening to those in India, and good morning, afternoon, whatever to those joining from wherever else in the world you are. I have a very special live stream for you today. We are talking to this lovely group of people about the Sidi community in Western India. And I'll give a little bit of an introduction to the Sidi community just so everyone knows who they are, where they came from. Essentially, the Sidi community is a community of people of African descent in Western India who, hi Modumita, um, who some of them have connections with the slave trade going back several centuries, things like that. We're going to hear a lot more about that from all of our panelists today. So I will introduce them very quickly and then quickly turn over the floor to them. So the first to speak is Jasmine Graves, who is a PhD candidate at the University of Chicago, whose research focuses on the Sidi Sufi devotional tradition of Gujarat and Mumbai. Then we have Beheroze Shroff, who is a documentary filmmaker who teaches at the University of California-Irvine and who has made several documentaries about the Sidi community in Gujarat. Then Sophia Pequignon is a PhD candidate at the University of Toulouse, Jean Jaurès, France. Her research focuses on processes of identification and unification among Sidis and with other people of African descent across the globe. And finally, last but not least, we have Juliana Jude Hardnokar, who is a member of the Sidi community and is trained as a civil engineer and is currently working as a Sidi model coordinator in Mumbai. So thank you everyone for agreeing to be on this panel and for joining us today. As our usual viewers know, this is a special live stream that we're doing for Black History Month. And I hope that everyone enjoys it. So Jasmine, it's over to you.
Thank you, Chelsea. And thank you so much for organizing this event and bringing us all together. We're very excited to share our knowledge and to share our experiences with you about the Sidi community of India. So, what you're seeing here in this slide is a procession of Sidis, Indians of African ancestry, in the city of Ahmedabad in the western Indian state of Gujarat. And in this procession, the Sidis of Gujarat are honoring their patron saint, Bava Gaur. At the end of the presentation, we'll talk a little bit more about Bava Gaur. For now, I want to share a story with you about the site right in front of you that you're seeing now. This is Teen Darwaza, and it is one of the gates to the old city of Ahmedabad. And legend has it that a Sidi soldier named Sidi Badshah stopped the goddess Lakshmi from departing the city of Ahmedabad in the 1400s. And the goddess Lakshmi wanted to leave, and Sidi Badshah asked her, "Do you have permission from the Sultan to leave?" And she said, "No." So Sidi Badshah said, "Okay, please wait here, and I'll get you permission." So he went to Ahmed Shah and told him the situation. And then, in order to stop Lakshmi from leaving the city of Ahmedabad, Sidi Badshah beheaded himself. So, by sacrificing his own life, he stalled the departure of Lakshmi from the city. And even today, a Muslim man from another community in Ahmedabad lights a candle at Teen Darwaza every day to honor the prosperity, the spirit of prosperity of the city of Ahmedabad. So, what does this legend tell us about the Sidi community? On this slide, you see an image of the outside of Sidi Badshah's tomb, identified as a dargah, or a sacred site of one who is considered to be a Sufi saint. There are many such tombs throughout the city of Ahmedabad, uh, honoring particular Sidis who were important in the history of the city of Ahmedabad and in Gujarat Sultanate overall. This is the tomb of Bilal Zuzair Khan, a powerful Sidi general in Sarkej Roza in Ahmedabad. What you're seeing here is the tomb of Sidi Said, sorry, in Ahmedabad. He is buried right in front of this mosque that he constructed in the 16th century. And the lattice work of the windows of this mosque is so beautiful that it became the unofficial symbol of the city of Ahmedabad for quite some time. You're seeing here the shaking minarets, the Julta Minara of Sidi Bashir. So all of these monuments represent the power and the might of Sidis. At that time, they were called Habshis. Habshis referring to people who came from the Horn of Africa, labeled Abyssinia, which is today Ethiopia, and also Somalia. So, the presence of these great Habshi military and political figures who were architects, who were patrons of the arts, and who contributed to the different sultanates of India throughout the pre-modern period, give us some look at the history of the Indian Ocean slave trade. So this map is showing the currents of the slave trade from the 1500s to the 1900s. We know that the trade was going on much earlier, even in the 13th century. And even before that, we know that India or South Asia and East Africa, all of this northwestern Indian Ocean world was connected through trade, not necessarily trade in enslaved captives, but was connected through trade for millennia. So we have documentary evidence suggesting that even in the first millennium, a trade was going on within this region. We also have evidence that of Axomite or Ethiopian, what is today Ethiopia, Axomite coins found in Mangalore, and these coins were from the 4th century, are dated back to the 4th century. So there's a very long history of trade, of travel, of circulation of people and ideas throughout the Indian Ocean world, particularly here, the northwestern Indian Ocean. And there are a few important points to note. Although captives were sent throughout the Indian Ocean world throughout its history, only a minority of these captives were African. And among those who were in some form of servitude in India, only a minority of those people were African. So to only connect the slave trade and the presence of Sidis in India to only connect the presence of Sidis in India to the slave trade is a very limited view of the scope of the Indian Ocean world and also the role of Africans in it. And we can talk a little bit more about that towards the end of the conversation today. This image I'm showing you is the cover of a book that was recently published by Dr. Omar Ali at the University of North Carolina at Greensboro. And it shows the image of one of the most famous Habshi or Sidi political figures of 17th century India, who is Malik Ambar. So on this slide, I'm giving you a few bullet points just for just for the sake of outlining important moments in the history of these East African political elites in India. So in the 13th century, we have Yaqut Khan Habshi, who kept the stables of the Delhi Sultanate and also is known to have perhaps been a lover, but recorded in history as simply a friend of Razia Sultan. In the 15th through 16th centuries, we have the Habshi elites of the Gujarat Sultanate, and I've shown you already images of their tombs and monuments that they were constructed or associated with. In the 17th century, we had Malik Ambar, who was the de facto ruler of the Ahmednagar Sultanate in the Deccan. We also had the rise of the Siddi Nawabs of Janjira. Janjira was a princely state of India, and the Siddis ruled Janjira for about 200 years. Then we have in the 18th century the African cavalry guards brought in by the Nizams of Hyderabad, and the Indians of African ancestry who live in Hyderabad today descend from these AC guards. And then we also have the Sidi Nawabs of the princely state of Sachin. Now, uh, today we have Indian communities of African ancestry who are related to these historical Habshi political elites to some extent, but also represent the multiple waves of migration of Africans into the Indian subcontinent. So, again, the name of Indians of African descent are largely called Sidis. The community is largely called Sidis, and Sidis may be spelled in different ways. Large communities of Sidis reside in the western Indian states of Gujarat and Karnataka. And those Indians of African ancestry who live in Hyderabad particularly call themselves Chaush. So there are different levels of appropriateness when referring to the names of these communities of Indians of African ancestry, right? So Sidis is a common name. It comes from the Arabic term Sayyidi, which means my lord, and it refers to the princely status, the noble and elite status of those Habshi or Abyssinian elites, those coming from the Horn of Africa and exercising political and military power in India during the pre-modern period. We've talked about the term Sidi, we've talked about the term Habshi. While Habshi was used historically, today many Sidis see the term Habshi as a pejorative word, a word with negative connotations, sort of racist connotations. So many Sidis today refrain from using the term Habshi. And again, those Indians of African ancestry in Hyderabad call themselves by the term Chaush. So, this history that I've briefly outlined for you, along with the presence of communities of Indian African ancestry that I've just shown you on the previous map, hint at the multiple waves of migration of Eastern Africans into the Indian subcontinent. Just to recap for you, we had our Habshi elites from the Horn of Africa, largely from the Horn of Africa, who are coming into India between the 13th and the 18th centuries. And in the 18th century, their political power, especially in the Deccan, declined. Then we have the Mozambique export trade from southeastern Africa. This was prevalent from the 16th through the 19th centuries, and Gujarati merchants and the Portuguese were largely responsible for this trade. And the trade, this particular trade, peaked in the 17th century and declined in the 19th century. So these two periods and these two um, aspects of the trade across the Indian Ocean world reflect the multiple waves of migration by which Eastern Africans arrived in the Indian subcontinent. So again, I'm showing you to this map just to tell you that in this area of the Horn of Africa, where we see Ethiopia, Somalia, that represents the place where the Habshi elites, military slaves and political figures came from. And then Southeast Africa, Kenya, Tanzania, Mozambique represent the areas from which East Africans arrived in India, in Gujarat and Karnataka, and are believed to represent the majority of the ancestry of Sidis today. Now, I will close my presentation with an introduction of the Saint Bava Gaur, whom I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, as Sidis and Ahmedabad were marching through the old city in celebration of the memory of Bava Gaur. Bava Gaur is buried in a village in the district of Bharuch in the state of Gujarat. This is an image of the outside of his tomb from a distance. And this is the outside of his tomb from up close, the outside of his dargah or his shrine. And here we see his tomb upon which embroidered cloths and flowers have been offered. Bava Gaur is revered as a Sufi saint, along with his brother Bava Habash, shown to the left, and his sister Mai Misra, shown to the right. And today, the Sidis of Gujarat and Mumbai are custodians of a devotional tradition centering on Bava Gor, Bava Havash, Misra, and other Sidi saints related to them. The Sidis believe that these three figures and their associates were all also Habshis or Sidis. My Misra's name tells us that she came from Egypt. Bava Habash's name tells us that he came from Ethiopia. And the full name of Bava Gor, Sidi Mubarak Nobi, tells us that he came from Nubia. So Siddhis venerate these three saints and others as their ancestral saints. And Indians throughout the state of Gujarat who are familiar with these saints and their shrines, as well as those in Mumbai, also come to these shrines to ask for the blessings of these particular saints. With that, I think Beheroze Shroff will give you some more insight as to the Bava Gor tradition and its relationship to the Siddhis and its impact on other Indians in Gujarat and Mumbai. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Jasmine. So giving the floor to Beheroze.
Thank you. Good evening to all of you. Thank you, Chelsea, for inviting me to this event. And thank you, Jasmine, for a very comprehensive introduction. And I thank you all, dear audience members, for being here. In my documentaries, I am looking at the cultural and spiritual significance of identity that Siddhis have claimed from Bava Gor, as Jasmine just pointed out, and as escaped Africans or freed Africans in the social hierarchy of Gujarat, in the caste hierarchy of Gujarat, Africans reconstructed their identities to give themselves dignity and claimed Bava Gor as their ancestor. So their blackness they reconstructed into the identity of the holy fakir. And thus they formed a community, a brotherhood of holy fakirs, and they called that Jamaat or caste, so that they would be integrated into the caste and racialized society of Gujarat, because they were also called gulam. They were also called slaves, or they were called kale log, which means black people. In terms of an introduction to my film, to the clips from my film, Bava Gor and my Misra, the names will come up, and we will see how when Siddhi elder in one of the clips in my film goes to a village and sings there with a musical instrument in his hand called the malunga and a bead rattle which is called my Misra. These two instruments became symbols of Bava Gor and my Misra, and they connote for devotees and for the villagers where Malang Bhai will go and sing healing instruments of Bava Gor. And the Siddhis also embody the healing legacy of Bava Gor. When they greet you at the shrine or when they meet with you, they are carrying the power, healing power of Bava Gor. That is how they have reconstructed their identity to give themselves respect and dignity. And to this day, the devotees regard them with respect, including my family. My family are all devotees of Bava Gor. I'm a Parsi Zoroastrian from Bombay, and my father introduced us to this tradition when I was 7 years old. So I have interacted with the gentle, kind Siddhi community of Gujarat from that age. And they've always welcomed me in their homes, in their lives, and given me the gift of their stories and their histories. So what I share with you is precious and important, and I hope you will cherish that. So we will see in the first clip how Siddhi elder Malang Bhai is regarded with respect invited to the villages, given grain, given cash, and people also touch his feet. You will see a little child touching his feet. He sings bhajans and he sings qawwali. Qawwali is a devotional genre of songs sung to Sufi saints. And since Bava Gaur belongs to the Rifai Sufi order, Siddis have made a syncretic belief that involves some of their African rituals and Sufi Islam and creatively amalgamated these by singing qawwali to Bava Gaur. In the clip, you will see Malangbai singing a bhajan to Krishna and a qawwali to Bava Gaur. The malunga, the instrument, was transported across the oceans with Africans, and to this day, the malunga is played in different parts of Africa also, particularly among the South African Xhosa community. That's how you pronounce the word. So with that, I ask Chelsea to show the clips. One more comment. In the second clip, we will see Babubhai Siddi in Mumbai, who talks about his identity as Indian first and Siddi next. Now, why does he have to declare that he is Indian first? What I want to show in this clip is the vulnerability of Siddi as Muslims in an India that is increasingly declaring a Hindu identity, and somehow Muslims are caught in that binary of Hindu-Muslim, and it has made them vulnerable. So they have to declare their loyalties to the state first, their sense of citizenship to the state first. Having said that, we can discuss in Q&A later, and I'll ask Chelsea to play the clips. Thank you, Chelsea.
અહીંયા શું છે કે બાવાગોરના નામનું 10 શેર 5 શેર અનાજ જે લોકો નવી ખેતી થાય ત્યારે 5 શેર 10 શેર અનાજ કાઢે તે પાછા આપણને બોલાવીને ત્યાં આપે કે ભાઈ આ બાવાગોરના નામનું છે તમે લઈ જાઓ. सबको यानी खबर है कि ये बावागोर दादा का ही बाजा है. गुजराती लोगों को भी खबर है. ये जो नहीं ऐसे करके झाड़ा नाक देते हम लोग, उन लोगों को खबर क्या ये बावागोर का बाजा है, इससे अपने झाड़ा नखवाएंगे, अपनी तबीयत अच्छी हो जाएगी. गुजराती में जाता हूँ गुजराती जैसा, मुसलमान में जाता हूँ मुसलमान जैसा. हाँ, उनके अंदर भजन गा लेता हूँ. गुजराती है, हमारे वाले हैं, मुसलमान हैं, यानी हर कौम के अंदर मैं चला जाता हूँ.
સીધી હિન્દુસ્તાની પહેલે ને બાદમાં સિદ્ધી ભાષા. સિદ્ધી તો હિન્દુસ્તાની તો પહેલે જ ને. હવે તો અમે હિન્દુસ્તાની જ થઈ ગયા ને. હવે તો અમે મહારાષ્ટ્ર થઈ ગયા. કઈ ઝાલા રે કઈ ઝાલા.
મારા બચ્ચામાં જન્મ બધા થયો મહારાષ્ટ્રમાં. બધાય બાપ દાદા બધાય મહારાષ્ટ્રમાં, ત્રણ પેઢી મહારાષ્ટ્ર. પણ હવે બધા સ્કોલરો આવીને તમને બધા સવાલ પૂછ્યા કરે, હું મારા જેવા
પહેલે હિન્દુસ્તાની પછી સિદ્ધી. પહેલે તો હિન્દુસ્તાની જઈ દે તો પછી મહારાષ્ટ્ર બાલ ઠાકરે કહે તુમી જાઓ તુમી ગાઓ મધી. નહીં તો કહેવાનું ને. હા, અરે વાહ. है ना महाराष्ट्र
तो तुम्हारा तो सब पुरखा के पुरखे इधर है, सवाल नहीं होता है.
There was a little time lag in the sound. I'm not sure if my clip was okay.
I'm not sure what happened. If you want, we can post it in the comments.
Yeah, we can post it later. but the voices came through, so that's fine. And I just want to make one more comment. In that there is much laughter in the clip around the issue of identity. And Babubhai's wife, Fatima Ben, says, you shouldn't say that. Because Babubhai says, Bal Thakare will tell you to go back to where you came from. So although there is much laughter, you can see that Fatima Ben, the wife, is very careful about what should be said on camera. And I later asked Babubhai if I should show the clip, and he said, please go ahead and show it. So that's the only comment I want to make. Thank you very much. And now Sophia will give us a more enlightened version about Siddhis of Kannada.
Okay. Thank you very much, Beheroze. And we can see a lot of parallels with the Chinese community in Calcutta, which we've done extensive work with, which we can again discuss at the end. So with no further ado, I introduce Sophia.
Hello, good evening, everyone. And thank you so much, Chelsea, for inviting me tonight. And thank you so much, Beheroze and Jasmine, for your presentations. So I just share with you my presentation. Yeah, it's okay. So as it was stated in the introduction, Africans in India have occupied different positions and arrived at different times and did not came from the same parts of Africa. African descendants currently living in India, therefore, do not form a united or homogeneous group. They live in geographically distant areas, don't all speak the same language, and they have differing religious practices. Despite these differences, there are Sidi networks on different scales, local, regional, and national. From Gujarat to Mumbai, Sidis have been federating for several hundred years through Sufism and by defining their identity within a cosmology of venerated African Sufi saints who are celebrated in music, dancing, rituals, and kinship, symbolizing the transmission of their African roots, but also their union with the local and Indian societies. In Karnataka, Sidis are Christian, Catholic and Protestants, Muslims, Sufis or Tabligh, or Hindu. The Sidi communities of these states are scattered throughout the forest, forming groups mostly of the same religion. However, religion boundaries among Sidis are not fixed, and in the last decades, interfaith relationships, marriages, as well as political struggles and economical federation between Sidis from different religions have increased a lot, although religious borders still represent an obstacle to Sidi unities. In the 80s, Sidi leaders and social workers of different religions have begun a process of unification, trying to bring unity between all Sidis from different religions and to promote Sidi identity by asserting the value of their African origins and of Sidi culture, but also have been trying to improve the living condition of Sidis who face this very, very hard social and economical condition and were also completely discriminated by other non-Sidi people, particularly due to their physical features and the low social status. So Sidi altogether have been striving for about 20 years to be recognized as one community and obtain scheduled tribe status, so Sidi could access some measures of affirmative actions and benefits from quota like in education, government job, housing, loans, or food rations, for example. But Sidi of Uttara Kannada obtained scheduled tribe status only in 2003. And in other districts where Sidi lives, also live few Sidis, this has never been granted. Sorry. In Gujarat, only Sidis in Saurashtra district obtained scheduled tribe status in 1956, and Sidis of other areas still want to achieve it, as they still need to improve their living condition as well. On the national level, over the last decade, Sidi networks between cities from Gujarat, Mumbai, and Karnataka have also developed. Yet, most Sidi were unaware of each other's existence about 20 years ago. In 2000 and 2006, two conferences gathering Sidis from all over India were organized by scholars and the UNESCO. Although those conferences hatched the idea of cities unification, networks didn't develop from there and at the national level. And at that time, the lack of financial means to travel and difficulties to communicate over long distance made it difficult. About 15 years later, new attempts to build an all India Sidi community were initiated by Sidi leaders and social workers from both states. A national Sidi federation was then created in 2015 by Sidis from Karnataka and Mumbai who met on Facebook. In fact, Sidi social media played a crucial role in developing networks between Sidis from Gujarat to Karnataka. A few marriages between Sidis from Karnataka and Sidi from Mumbai and Gujarat have even taken place with couples who met on Facebook. In 2020, about 20 Muslim Sidis from Karnataka traveled to Gujarat to celebrate the Urs festival of Baba Gaur, the Kulpir or lineage saint of the Sidis of Gujarat that Jasmine was talking about. Sidis from all over Gujarat and Mumbai come every year to this event, but for the first time in 2020, Karnataka Sidi went there. Indeed, Baba Gaur is also venerated by some Muslim Sidis and few Christian Sidis also in Karnataka. After having been a place of meeting for many Sidis of Gujarat, Baba Gaur's shrine might become a platform of Sidi network at the national level. Who knows? African people and their descendants have constantly adapted to social, historical, economical, and political context in India. But it's interesting to note that the way to adapt has always been to unite on the basis of a common origin, Africa. Yet, many cities have spoken with in both states told me that few decades ago, they were not aware of Africa and that other people of African descent exist in other parts of the world. And some CD told me how this discovery gave a meaning to their difference, always pointed out in their own society. In the past 10 years, many people of African descent has come to meet Sidis. Some of them came for missionary or charity work, over as photographers, filmmakers, scholars, travelers, and most of them are Pan-Africanists. Some Sidi Damal group from Gujarat traveled to different parts of Africa, and 3 young Sidi social workers from Karnataka even traveled to South Africa, where they were invited to a Pan-African conference. Many exchanges between Sidis and other people of African descent who identify each other with the same African roots also take place on social networks. The unification process I mentioned between Sidis at different levels are the response to being a very small minority in India, often oppressed for 100 years. They follow the same logic as the origin of the Pan-Africanism, uniting people of African descent worldwide in a response to centuries of slavery, colonization, domination, and segregation. Pan-African diasporic consciousness is now developing among Sidis an echo to their own struggle, often considered as foreign in their own country. Sidi has shown a great resilience in putting forward their particular origin in India, transforming them into a source of strength and pride, shaping Afro-Indian communities in a society overdetermined by group membership, where they had to adapt to and where there is power in number. To conclude, I would like to pay a tribute to Kajetan Sidi from Karnataka, who passed away in 2018. Kajetan Sidi was one of the first Sidi to succeed in his studies and had an opportunity to study abroad for his higher studies. But for this, he needed a certificate to prove that he belonged to the Sidi community. When he was asking for it, like they told him, "How can we give you this certificate if you do not exist?" Cajetan told me that this shocking answer motivated him to make his Sidi community exist and be recognized. Then he first initiated the unification process in Karnataka by founding the All Karnataka Sidi Development Association. We have the pleasure and the honor to have his daughter Juliana Sidi tonight, and she will tell us about her beautiful life as unique as her father was. Thank you, Juliana, for coming among us tonight.
Thank you very much, Sophia. So I will now add Juliana. Welcome, and I think you can take it from here.
Thank you, Sophia, for introducing me. Hello, everyone. I would like to thank Chelsea for giving me this opportunity to speak on this platform. I'm Juliana Jose Harnodka, Sidi. My mom is a Goan Christian, and my dad is from Sidi community from Karnataka. Uh, my dad was the first person from our community to secure to be a graduate, and he went to the seminaries to become a priest. But my grandmom, like, she didn't want him to become a priest, and then uh, he came out of it. And but he was very familiar with Latin and English. He had a good command over the language. Though he studied in a Kannada medium school, then he joined KSFIC, that is Karnataka Forest Development, that is in 1974, and then he worked for the government as a forest department as a manager. Then later on, he went on to establish AXADA, which is known as All Karnataka City Development Association, with the help of Father Joseph and Father Poema in 1983. Then later on, he initiated a program. He initiated the program for status of ST, and as Sophia has already told you, the cause for initiating this program for ST was that he had an opportunity to go abroad for studies, and when he went to the Tahsildar to request, he needed a certificate for that he belongs to a Siddhi community. The Tahsildar of that time told him, "You do not exist. How can I give you the certificate?" So he asked the Tahsildar, "I am standing right in front of you, and how do you say that I don't exist?" But still, documentation is a process. So he didn't get that opportunity to go abroad, and it was always in his mind that he will do something to change the status of Siddhis. And in 1983, he formed this AXADA, through which he approached the government for the Siddhi status, and even he initiated the program with Sports Authority of India for special area games for Siddhi community people, and many of these people who joined the sports have secured government job and are at a good position today. So this is my dad. His name is Kazatin Francis Kambrekar. Next. These are some of the Siddhi boys and girls who were selected for sports in those years, in 85, through special area games. So in the first picture you can see this group of boys, and in the second picture you can see a Siddhi girl running. She's Kamala Siddhi, and she played for Asian Games, and she currently works for Indian Railways. So the next slide, please. So here you can see the first picture is of Benjamin. He's a national level boxer who works for Indian Army, and she's an athlete, runner, and she's back home now. So next. So my father initiated and obtained this ST certificate with help of Father Poema and Father Joseph, and in the late, and it was granted in the year 2003 And later there was a Forest Act also, which was passed in 2006 for Sidis, because Sidis usually cultivated on the encroached lands, encroached lands of Forest Department. So the forest officers would come and harass them because obviously it was the encroached land, so they didn't have any land. So in 2006, the forest department and the government granted them land deeds under this act. They were given a minimum land, even if they were cultivating 5-6 hectares of land. A minimum of 1.25 hectares of land was given to cities, and my dad helped the cities in doing the paperwork because it was a lengthy process and had a legal language. And due to my father being a educated and government employee, we had a very good childhood, me and my siblings, and I had the privilege to go to a English medium school. In those days, like for any city children to go to an English medium school in those days would have been a dream, and I was having that privilege. So that was due to my dad's. So once I finished my high school from Dandeli, and I obtained a civil engineering diploma from Karwar. I got married to choose a city who was working here in Provident Funds. And when I shifted to Mumbai, I tried looking for job, and it was very difficult for me to get job. Not because of my qualification or not because of anything else. It was just because of my looks. Wherever I went for an interview, whichever interview I went, initially on the phone it was all okay. They used to see my biodata, it was okay. But when I went there, they were like, okay, ma'am, you look African. We can't hire Africans. So I explained to them, I'm not an African. I'm Indian. But ultimately, then they say, ma'am, we don't hire foreigners. So, but God had His own plans for me, and I started. Actually, my husband used to go as a part-time model for films and ads. So I used to accompany him, and on one such shoot, I got an opportunity wherein this Nita Ratwani, the director of the ad, she was having a problem on the set because the coordinator had bought wrong artist, and it was a goof up, and she wanted the replacement, but it was not possible at that moment. So as in she came to know that we are Indians and we live in Mumbai and we are locals, she approached us to provide her models from our community if it is possible. Then she sent her team and with a camera and everything to my village, and so we auditioned people, and that's how my journey began. So and I got my first assignment from her, and later on I started getting more works from Nita Radvani and her friends because she would always recommend my name to them. And my big break came from 2007 West Indies World Cup, wherein they wanted to create West Indies in Mumbai because India is playing cricket. So India is one of the countries which plays cricket. So ICICI cricket. So then uh, they created West Indies in Mumbai. So they wanted lots of Africans for that. So I provided them lots of kids and adults from Sidi community. Initially, it was really difficult for me to arrange because lack of education and they have less exposure to urban life. However, we organized people from our village and in all age groups, and it was a very huge responsibility, especially when you arrange for the kids, for the shoot. But like we had to do it, and we did it, and it was a huge successful shoot. After which I hadn't looked back at my work. Then in that we bring kids, we take care of the kids, we take care of adults, and we not when we are bringing kids for the shoot, we have to not only take care of their needs, we have to take care of their emotions also because they miss the parents and all. So we bring a guardian who knows the kids very well, so who can understand them and who can be with them always. I have worked with Directors like Lalita Sgaonkar, Rita Ratwani, Kishore Ragani, Kailash Surendranath, Gajraj Rai, and more. And below I share a few of my few of my photographs wherein the city girls and boys have participated in the shoot. So on my first corner, left corner are girls from the Sidi community, and below the boys. And on the right side also, these are kids from all the kids are from Sidi community. And below it's me and the girls from Sidi community. We participated for a shoot. So that's this is my work. How I get cities and how the change happens. You know how they look. It's very different from what they were back and what they are on these photographs. So this has been a successful career for me by the grace of God, and also with the help of the community people, because they trusted me with their kids, and they sent them to Mumbai, because bringing kids is a very risky thing, all the way they have to travel and all. So, but it is win for both of us. For me, it's my I started it as my work. I never knew it would become so big, but like it's a win-win situation for both. Like the parents are happy that they get money from the shoot for the kids, and they pay their fees, or they buy them some jewelry, or they can buy them good clothes. And among all this, the kids are the most happiest one, because and they get to see a lot of different places like Mumbai, Delhi, Calcutta, and Kerala, blah blah. But because as I was born in a privileged family, but though I hardly saw Mumbai or any big cities until I came to Mumbai after marriage. So for them, it's like the small kids coming to Mumbai and all, traveling around India is a big thing for them. So they're always so happy about it, and they always tell me, like whenever I go back to village, even kids come up to me and say, "Auntie, when are you calling us for the next shoot?" And even they say, I have even literally the kids cry when they're going back. They don't want to go. They want to stay in Mumbai. They tell me, "I wish, Auntie, my parents would have been in Mumbai, so we also would be." I always tell them, it's not late. You study very hard, become good. You can become much better than me, and you can go somewhere else better place than Mumbai in the world is a big place. So I tell them education is more important, come what may. Don't stop your education, don't leave your schools. And even I even instruct the parents literally that please send your children to school first, and it's very important. And that makes me happy, and I hope I can do more for my community through this field, because it makes me financially stable, so I can help somebody. So, and I would feel happy and more happy if I can do something for it. And thank you so much for everybody giving me this opportunity to talk here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Juliana. That was a very interesting presentation as well. So I'm going to add everybody back in. And so now we're going to do one general discussion, which is, what do you wish the world would know about the Sidi community? So starting with Jasmine.
Thank you. So I think these were all amazing presentations, and I'm so happy to be a part of this panel. Thank
Sorry,
you.
Jasmine, could you speak a little closer to the mic?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, so I just was saying thank you again for organizing this event, and I loved everyone's presentations. I hope the audience loved it too, and I'm grateful to be here with everyone. What I want the world to know about Sydney. There are some misconceptions, yeah, that people connect the idea of someone African with slavery. And I want the world to know that yes, the slave trade was an important factor in bringing people of African descent into India, but I also want the world to understand that there were other the Indian Ocean slave trade was not limited to Africans. Other people were involved in the slave trade, and also those who were in positions of servitude in India were not only Africans. Africans were a very small minority. When we think of the history of the Sydney community, I also want the world to understand that their ancestors also came as merchants, traders, sailors, soldiers, and Sufis. So there is a very diverse history to this community. And I also want to emphasize that today, we can, even though their ethnic origins may be outside of India, I want people to understand that Sidis are Indian. Okay, they are Indians who have African ancestry, and that's important to remember. Whether they are Muslim, whether they are Christian, whether they are Hindu, they are Indian. So it is important for Sidis to be recognized as a part of Indian diversity.
Sorry, I was on mute. Thank you very much, Jasmine. Next is Beheroze.
Yes, thank you. I think I want the world to know also, as Jasmine said, that Siddhis are like you and me. We don't want to make them other. We don't want to make them alien. And they have lives of dignity. They struggle like the rest of us. But recently, there have been attacks on Africans who are studying in Delhi as students or in Mumbai. And sometimes Siddhis are also mistaken for African and treated with disrespect. So I think there are lots of issues that we as Indians need to think about. How we welcome other people in our country and how we look upon them. And we need to dismantle this Hindu Muslim binary that we are grown up on, I suppose, after independence. And I hope for a better vision of India in which so many different minority communities belong and have contributed so much to India, particularly the Siddhi community now is being discovered. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next is Sophia.
Well, there are many things which has been said already. Actually, I was talking about African diasporic consciousness, but I want to say that it has been constructed on Sidi in a complex manner. And they have been a minority affiliated to the same group, both in India and global societies. When I was gathering family histories in Ahmedabad and DU in Gujarat, the history showed that African children who served in Indian non-Sidi families about 100 years ago, they were married to other African or to Sidi men or women of the nearest community. So thus, they were seen as the same group of people also by the larger society. Papendiaï, like a French historian who has worked on Black minority in France, described a Black condition that I think Sidi is also living as a social situation which is not the fact of a class, a caste, or a community, but whether the fact that a minority shares that of a minority which shares the social experience of being considered as Black. So for 100 years, cities have been using their African origin as federating element to try to renegotiate their difficult social situation often in India and emerge from this Black condition. So I want to warn against categorizing cities as homogeneous group, and I believe it's essential to consider the diversity of path and experience of African descendants in India, and who in fact do not all consider themselves as Sidi or identify with people of African descent. So I would also like to appreciate the struggle of cities in Gujarat, Mumbai, and Karnataka to survive in India and their attempt to unite as marginal communities living in this society. And I would like to point out also that despite all this, a great majorities of cities from Karnataka, Gujarat, Mumbai still face very difficult economic situation, and and also lots of discrimination. So I hope the world and Indian society will give cities a greater consideration to their uniqueness, their struggle, and the incredible journey they have been on India, and as their resilience, which is also an example for all of us.
Okay, thank you very much. Juliana? You're on mute.
Treat me as an Indian in my own country, you know. Don't treat me as a foreigner in my own country. And I would request everybody, like I would request people that I think people should be more aware that there are Africans, and you have to expect whatever has been there in the past or in future. We still exist. If you want, I mean, like still, if people don't want to acknowledge it, it's I don't know, but we exist, you know. So, and people should know that this community exists, and because it's not the mistake of the people, because there is no awareness, because there is no scope of awareness in India where the community is highlighted or hardly. I'm talking on a lower scale. I'm from Karnataka, and if I go just 45 kilometers away from my hometown, people don't know that a Sidi community exists here. They whenever just it's 45 kilometers I'm talking about from where like 40,000 people exist. So if I'm leaving my community and going 40 kilometers, they ask me, "Are you a foreigner?" Any person going from my community for any shopping or anything to that bigger town, city, which is just 45 kilometers, they think as we are as foreigners. You can imagine how much we are highlighted and how people don't know about us, how they don't know we exist, they don't know we are Indians. So I would appreciate if this awareness could be highlighted that Sidis exist and we are Indians, and please don't make us foreigners in our own country.
Thank you very much. So again, I see a lot of resonances with the experience of the Chinese community in India, who we've worked with a lot in the context of Kolkata. So now we're going to open the floor to a few questions that people have asked. So there's a number of comments. But first, I wanted to throw this at you guys. So in Bengal, there was actually a group of Habshi sultans in the 15th century. And so we were wondering if the title Baba Gur has something to do with some relation with the Sidis or the Habshis in Bengal. Anyone want to take that? Yeah, go ahead.
So, Sidi, do you want to take that?
You're on mute.
No, Jasmine, you go ahead.
Okay. I can share some remarks first. Yes, it's a wonderful. I'm glad that you know about the Habshi, brief Habshi rule in Bengal during the 15th century. Bava Gaur. So there are different etymologies of this title. His original name is Sidi Mubarak Nobi. Nobi telling us that he was from what is called Nubia, contemporary Sudan. And this title, Gaur, was the Sufi name that was given to him. The original, when he joined the Rifai Sufi order and gained the authority to initiate disciples in that order. So the legends have it that he gained this authority in he joined the order in Iraq before coming to Gujarat. Anyway, this title Gaur was from an Arabic term meaning deep meditation or focus, and then it became simplified to Gor, where it meant where the translation would be father of the tomb, because there's a legend that he meditated in a tomb for 12 years.
Okay, thank you very much. So no connection that we know of to Bengal, in other words. So this is quite a long one. I'll try to summarize a little bit. So Shuktidi says that recently they had seen a performance by a group known as the Sidi Goma from Gujarat, and she really enjoyed their presentation. This is just a comment, but does anyone have anything to say about this particular performance or anything?
It was hosted by Bangla. Okay.
Yeah,
Uh,
banglanatok.com.
yes. May I answer that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Yes, Siddhis of Gujarat have been invited to many festivals by the Indian authorities, first by the Western Cultural Zone in Gujarat itself, then ICCR in Delhi has invited them to different festivals. And I think that maybe the lady who is talking about this may have seen them in one of those festival programs. They are paid very little, I just want to point out. And the authorities get a huge commission. But they are happy to do this because it is their livelihood. Their dance and their music to this day is their livelihood, although the younger generation is moving on to other jobs. But because this is performed also in honor of their saint Bava Gaur, they continue to the tradition of the dance, the damal, and it's very important to them. So thank you for the comment.
Okay, thank you very much. Um, so people are basically in the comments just commenting on how terrible it is that for the racial profiling and for also kind of assuming that as Black people, Sidis will be able to do sports. So I don't know if Juliana, you want to answer. It's not really a question. It's just people expressing how terrible it is. If you want to say anything, you can.
Yeah. Yeah, I do understand this. That it's a comment what he has passed, but you know what? It was an opportunity which the government gave us in those days in 1984 when there was nothing, and actually, if you, I have the pictures of those days wherein because my dad used to collect them, so I have like they had nothing. They didn't have food to eat. They didn't have anything, even clothes. The children who were selected for the sports program, they traveled to Delhi without even wearing slippers. They didn't have a pair of slippers in their foot. So this was, a government has done the bit what it can do. So it was an opportunity which the government gave the children, and today those same kids who participated, and yeah, obviously, if maybe the program was stopped in '88, so they stopped this program, or else maybe today you would have some Olympians for it. Due to some, we don't know what exactly the reason is, but the program got stuck and stopped in middle of the journey. So all the kids were sent back, and those who had played nationals and by then who had already the second batch didn't get the chance for establishing themselves, but the first batch which went, most of them are employees today. They are settled, their kids are settled, like uh, though they got education also through sports. They were admitted in schools during those days, and sports changed the life. I take the example of my husband. He comes from a very poor family, my husband's family, but today where he is, it's because of sports. He got a job because of sports quota. So he's proud of it, and I'm also proud of him, and I'm also proud of my dad who initiated this thing because children were dropouts. They were not going to school, so they got an opportunity to go school, and maybe not the whole community, but at least 100 children got an opportunity to get educated in those days, and to make out of those 100, maybe 20, 25, or 40 got an opportunity to get a government job, and they are settled, and we can see them, and I'm happy. I always think, okay, because of my dad, he's there, and because of his hard work, she or he is there. So I understand, but if some more polishing would have been done, or if some more opportunity would have been given to the kids, maybe it would have changed the perspectives. Even today there are kids who play sports. Even myself, I encourage them for this. We conduct sports workshops, for football and all. So we encourage them because we know if see for a Siddhi, it's very difficult to compete in this world and to get a job only through studies because only through
Hmm.
studies because I know my brother-in-law, he's an engineer and he has taken 10 years to secure a government job. So it's a long process because he has to study, and by the time he has to think about his family or she has to think about his family to support the family first. So my brother-in-law could waste his 10 years just studying and upgrading himself because he had a brother who was backing him. But everybody doesn't have a brother who or financially who can back him. So
Hmm.
they always think, okay, what and sports can give them much more horizon to get established in their life, and it's an opportunity if they're making their life out of sports. I think government should encourage it.
Okay.
And I
I'm.
just like
Yeah.
to, oh,
Go
sorry.
ahead. Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, no, just like to say that I was talking about scheduled tribes and government job quota, but indeed in Karnataka, almost nobody has government job except most of the people who did sport. So now they got the government job because it is very hard for cities to get a government job even though they have a scheduled tribe status. So yeah, it is an opportunity as Juliana has explained. Yeah, and thank you.
No, wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. So there's one more question, comment sort of thing. um, so this one mentions Kawadi quilting. Does anyone know anything about that and want to mention a little bit about it?
May I
Yeah,
talk
go ahead.
about that? Yes, this Kawadi quilting is in Karnataka, in fact, and Professor Henry Jewell, who is in the University of Wisconsin, has written a lot of scholarly papers on that because he has bought these quilts, brought them to the United States, and sold them. There's a cooperative that has been formed in Karnataka of quilters, and they are also backed by the Catholic Church. The sisters who are helping the women to make these quilts, and there is an expert in textiles who is looking at how these designs can be improved, and so the cooperative is functioning quite well right now. But again, when I went to the conference in Goa, I did find that some of the quilters told me that they were not paid enough, which Professor Drual doesn't know. But there's always a hierarchy within a hierarchy.
Hmm.
At least it's an opportunity for the women who are also simultaneously farmers. So
Hmm.
they are giving their time to agriculture, to composting, and creating home gardens. Um, so that's my comment. If anyone else wants to add to it, uh, please feel free to do so. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. That's very interesting. And I think Sorbi's comment here goes for both them and the singers that we discussed. Thank you for pointing out how little they're paid and how they continue to do it anyway because of their dedication. Um, so, and my husband has also pointed out this is exactly what we've been hearing with all of the craft communities that we've been talking to in our own work as well. So, thank you also for bringing that to everyone's attention. So I think I will round like in this um, with this question again from my husband. What can we do as a social enterprise based in Kolkata um, to help spread awareness about Sidi heritage, culture, identities, everything we talked about today, besides this live stream?
Jasmine, you can talk about your heritage program.
Well, thank you, Chelsea. That's a great segue. I think, Chelsea, you and I, we've spoken about the possibilities to host virtual tours of the heritage sites in Western India. and in the Deccan. So I think that would be one way if we were able to move that project forward. It would be a wonderful way for immersive trails to be able to share more about the history and heritage of Sidis, and in a way that will be beneficial to the Sidi community, especially as people are being impacted by lack of opportunities to work during this pandemic.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And may I add
Yeah, go
that
ahead.
Sophia has many contacts in Karnataka, so that can also open some doors in Karnataka for immersive trails. And Juliana, of course, belongs to itself, and she can collaborate as well. This would be a fantastic venture. If anybody would want to comment, Sophia or Juliana.
I think it will be a lot to do with Sidi heritage, because Sidis from all over India have many specialities, and like the music, the culture, the way to express themselves and their history. They have many things to share with us, and we could not have enough time in this presentation to talk about all this richness that Sidi have to teach us, and but I it will be a very good idea, and there are a lot to do in everywhere in India, I think. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Juliana, did you want to say something?
Yeah, because Siddhis mostly live in forest areas. So I think, I mean, like anybody from a city would like to go and have a look, like how they live, what they do. So a homestay kind of a thing would be very encouraging, And actually, we were planning, but due to this pandemic and all, we didn't. Like we kept it at the backstage at the moment. There are many things like you have raw honey, then you have all forest products over there. So you can a tour, you can have a tour, like they go looking around scenic beauties or wild animals, or help, like people coming from cities can enjoy their dance song, and then maybe the cultural activities, and like we can during the time of cultivation and all, or like agricultural cultivations and all, people can join for tours, because because city life is different from village life. So city people love doing this. So that would be encouraging to have some we have very good waterfalls, we have good forest areas, we have some water surfings, and also it's good for tourism actually, for hiking and all.
But I love to say something. I think it is very important to let cities like driving this way by themselves. Like be careful that not everyone else is taking advantage of like all these beautiful things like cities have to teach us. This is very important because business is a lot in all that. So I think let city show us as the way they want to do and to share with us.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have one more question that came in that I think everyone will enjoy. So, is there anything unique about Sidi food? And this probably is different for the different communities. And are there any recipes that came with them or that they've developed in India? So I think I see Juliana wants to answer this.
Yeah, because I have done a show on this particular question. Like we did it for, if anybody wants to go and have a look at it, you all can always have a look at it on 101, uh, wherein they have shown some of the Siddhi recipes. We have done a documentary on that, so it is there on YouTube. So um, you can
I
just
think
have
we
a look.
can share the I think we can share the link in the comments
Yeah,
after
yeah,
this video is
we
posted.
can do after that. So there we have like having this ant chutney, then kurli, then again there are lots of other things which are prepared traditionally in a Siddhi kind of a way, like Siddhi food kind of a way. So like honey is there, like the raw honey, like comb, the way you get it from the comb, honeycomb and how it is eaten and all. So there's a video on this. So there are foods, especially the ant chutney is very famous.
Okay, thank you.
Ant chutney, okay, to be precise.
So somebody says that they've actually tasted the red ant chutney. All right. So on that note, I think we'll wrap up. Thank you all very much. And I learned a lot from this presentation. I'm sure everyone who was watching has as well. This video will continue to be up on all of our platforms on YouTube and Facebook especially. So if you have any questions when you're watching this later, please just write your questions in the comments and we'll see if we can get back to you with some answers. So thank you very much indeed. And good evening to everyone in India, and extrapolate it to whatever time zone you're in while you're watching this. So thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Much for this opportunity.